Welcome to another mentoring moment with Dr. Mo. I'm Dr. Mo, and in this mentoring moment, we will elevate and enhance your tapping practice by taking a deep dive into crafting powerful reminder phrases. So, as I mentioned in my previous video on crafting short yet powerful setup statements, the checklist for classical clinical EFT setup statements is composed of 3 different things. That being what happened, which represents the specific aspect you are tapping on, followed by how do you feel about it, or the emotion, and finally, where do you feel that in your body, which represents the somatic experience. So you can remember all of this with the fun little acronym C. S for somatic, E for emotion, and A for aspect. So now that we've kind of recapped what was discussed in the setup statement video, let's talk a bit about reminder phrases and their purpose. Your reminder phrases in your tapping rounds should reflect what was said in the setup statement. So the setup statement sets you up. It articulates the focus of that particular tapping round, whereas reminder phrases provide the repeated exposure to that particular focus. What clinical EFT, the classic approach, it encourages you to incorporate S, E, and A, the somatic, the emotion, and the aspects into one tapping round as reminder phrases. So what do I mean by that? Let's use this example. Let's say you were tapping on with a client using this setup statement. Even though she threw coffee in my face and I feel so angry in my stomach, I accept myself. So classic clinical EFT allows you and gives you permission to use S, E, and A. The somatic, the emotion, and the aspect all included in the tapping phrases. So top of the head would be, she threw coffee in my face. Eyebrow, gosh, I feel so angry in my stomach. Side of the eye, so angry. Under the eye, I feel it in my stomach. Under the mouth, she threw it in my face. Collarbone, so much anger in my stomach. And finally, under the arm, coffee in my face. So do you notice how in these reminder phrases, all 3 of the acronym is used? Somatic expression, as indicated by the stomach, the feeling in the stomach, the emotion, anger, and the aspect of she threw coffee in my face. So this is perfectly fine to do. However, in my personal practice, I have found that if you try and incorporate S, E, and A in your reminder phrases, the client's focus is split because they're focusing into mental, emotional, and somatic intensity of the experience all at once. And those 3 things have 3 respective intensities. And what I have found is that it can be hard to diffuse the intensity on the experience if the focus is split between all 3 of these things. So therefore, I really recommend for best tapping outcomes to focus on one of the letters in the acronym. Choose either S, E, or A, and just use that as a reminder phrase. So I call this method anchored reminder phrases. So let's do an example. Using that same example, let's recreate it using anchored reminder phrases. So for this example, I chose my anchored reminder phrase to revolve around the coffee in my face. So I used the A portion of the C acronym. So top of the head is, she threw coffee in my face. Eyebrow, again, she threw coffee in my face. Side of the eye, she threw coffee in my face, and so on and so forth. It's very boring. You'll notice that it's very repetitive and it's very boring, but it offers direct and repeated exposure to a stressful stimulus without diluting that exposure by mentioning other statements that might split that focused exposure for your client. When you do this, when you use anchored reminder phrases and you make your tapping as boring as possible, it puts the blinders on for your client and allows the client to see just one thing, to focus just on one thing. And when that focus is directed, then it increases the chances that your client will neutralize that stimulus and reach a state of desensitization, which is all that we could ever ask for. Also, repetition like this during a round allows for deeper access to your client's subconscious because it almost induces a sort of hypnotic state, a trance-like state, which allows for deeper processing and, quite frankly, more quicker processing as well. So as you notice in that example, I usually choose the A part of the SEA acronym as a reminder phrase. I usually use aspects because the aspects I feel are the catalysts for the emotions and for the somatic experience of that emotion. I feel that everything comes from the aspect. So my theory is, why not tap on the root, meaning the aspect, rather than a branch or the somatic or the emotion associated. But you, as a practitioner, have the choice to use S, E, or A, or all three, depending on what is most intense for your client and what you find to be most effective as a practitioner. So try this tip out to streamline your tapping rounds, and remember to keep it simple, you keep it boring, and as always, keep it tapping. I hope you have enjoyed this mentoring moment with Dr. Mo. I'm Dr. Mo, and we will talk and tap soon.